My boyfriend, 30 years old, and I, 26 years old, have been together for 1.5 years. He is a great guy, and so is the relationship. My boyfriend was in a motorcycle accident and has been in the hospital for a couple of weeks with a really bad foot-leg injury. I stayed with him for the first week until I had to go back to work. When it became clear he would be there for a while, I gave him my iPad so he could play games, stream, and all of that, because he doesn't have a tablet. The only thing I got rid of was the Notes app, because it can be very personal. He was pretty cold to me the last couple of times I visited him. I put it off as him having a horrible time, and he has been out of his mind on meds. The last time I went to visit him, he was being very emotional, and it looked like he had been crying. He told me how much he loves me and thanked me for everything I had been doing for him. This is all very unusual behavior, and I again thought it was the pain medication. I spent the night that night, and the next morning, he started asking me about my ex, the last time I talked to him or saw him. He knows I don't like talking about relationships in the past, and I was confused about why he would bring this up now. And then I kind of figured he was snooping or something. He asked me if I was cheating on him or ever have, which really made me mad because I feel like I have been there for him every step of the way, and I'm taking care of him and so much for him right now. We got into a pretty rough argument, and things are weird. I saw where he messaged my ex pretending to be me. My ex offered to pick me up, called me pet names, and stuff like that. He also found and messaged my ex's wife on his account. I've not been in contact with him in a long time, and my social media clearly shows that. I never went into great detail about our relationship, and anytime I was asked about it, I changed the subject or gave vague answers. He was the first guy I had real feelings for. He is a good bit older than I am, and it was a disaster and embarrassing. I just didn't want my family to find out, and I just don't think it is anyone's business. I don't know what I should do. Do I bring this up now or at all? I know he isn't exactly himself right now. I think it crossed a major line, but can I hold that against him? I am really upset about the whole situation, and because of the circumstances, I don't know if I'm an AA or if this is actually my fault. I really need advice. I feel so out of my depth and stressed. I also don't know if I should message my ex and let him know what happened. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You mean your ex-boyfriend, I hope? This is truly unhinged. I hope you have the foresight and wisdom to leave him there in the hospital and cut ties without a second thought. He is showing you his true self, and he is an insecure, paranoid liar who is probably cheating on you himself. Comment 2. Dude, medications don't make you do this. This is a huge violation of trust and boundaries. This is not something you let slide. You'd be a fool to not bring it up. I would reevaluate the relationship. This man pretended to be you. This is not normal. Do not blame pain medications. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading. So after that argument, things have been really tense between us. I decided to give him some space and only visited him every other day. He was still in the hospital and I could tell he was still upset. I tried to act normal, but it was hard. I was still really angry about him messaging my ex and his wife. I mean, who does that? But I also felt guilty because he was in pain and probably not thinking straight. About a week after our fight, I went to see him and he seemed a bit calmer. He apologized for accusing me of cheating and said he was just really insecure and scared of losing me. I told him I understood, but that what he did was not okay. He agreed and said he would never do something like that again. I wanted to believe him, but I still felt uneasy. Then, a few days later, I got a message from my ex. He was really confused and asked why I had been messaging him and his wife. I explained everything and apologized for the confusion. He was surprisingly understanding and said he hoped things would work out for me. That was a relief, but it also made me realize how much damage my boyfriend's actions could have caused. Around this time, my boyfriend was finally discharged from the hospital. He was still on crutches and needed a lot of help at home. I moved in with him temporarily to take care of him. It was really stressful, but I tried to stay positive. I hoped that being home would help him feel better and that we could start to rebuild our relationship. But things didn't get better. He was still really paranoid and kept asking me about my ex. He would go through my phone when I wasn't looking and accuse me of hiding things from him. It was exhausting. I felt like I was constantly walking on eggshells, trying to avoid another fight. One night, we had a huge argument. He accused me of cheating again, and I just snapped. I told him that I couldn't take it anymore and that he needed to trust me, or we were done. He got really quiet and then said something that shocked me. He admitted that he had been talking to his ex-girlfriend while he was in the hospital. He said he was just looking for someone to talk to, and that it didn't mean anything. But I was furious. How could he accuse me of cheating when he was the one talking to his ex? I packed my things and left that night. I stayed with a friend for a few days to clear my head. I didn't know what to do. I loved him, but I couldn't deal with his jealousy and paranoia. I felt like I was losing myself in this relationship. While I was staying with my friend, I started thinking about our relationship and how it had changed since the accident. I realized that his behavior had been controlling and manipulative, even before the accident. He would get jealous if I talked to other guys and would always want to know where I was and who I was with. I had brushed it off as him being protective, but now I saw it for what it was. I decided to talk to his sister about everything. She and I had always gotten along well, and I thought she might have some insight. When I told her what had been happening, she wasn't surprised. She said that he had always been insecure and that his last relationship had ended because of his jealousy. She said she had hoped he would change, but it seemed like he hadn't. This was a lot to take in. I felt like I didn't really know him at all. I started to question everything about our relationship. Had he always been this way, and I just didn't see it? Or had the accident and the pain meds made him worse? I decided to give him one last chance to explain himself. I went back to his place and told him we needed to talk. He was still on crutches and looked miserable. I felt a pang of guilt, but I knew I needed to do this for myself. I told him everything I had been feeling and how his behavior had affected me. He listened quietly and then apologized again. He said he knew he had messed up and that he wanted to make things right. He promised to go to therapy and work on his issues. He begged me to stay and give him another chance. I was torn. I still loved him, but I didn't know if I could trust him again. I told him I needed some time to think and left. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept going over everything in my head. I thought about all the good times we had shared and how much I cared about him, but I also thought about how his jealousy had made me feel and how I didn't want to live like that. The next day I called my mom and told her everything. She was really supportive and said that I needed to do what was best for me. She reminded me that I deserved to be happy and that I shouldn't settle for someone who made me feel bad about myself. After talking to her, I felt a bit more clear-headed. I knew what I needed to do. I went back to his place and told him that I couldn't be with him anymore. He was devastated and begged me to reconsider, but I stood my ground. I told him that I hoped he would get the help he needed and that I wished him the best, but that I needed to take care of myself. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done, but I knew it was the right decision. Since then, I've been focusing on myself and trying to move on. It's been tough, but I know that I'm doing the right thing. Thanks for reading. Aita for dumping my lying boyfriend after he kept seeing another girl behind my back. My boyfriend, 22-year-old male, and I, 24-year-old female, have been dating for about a year and a half. When we met, I was in my party era, and I wasn't looking for anything serious, and neither was my boyfriend, from what I understand. I knew he was talking to another girl before he started talking to me. After a few weeks of us being together, nothing exclusive, I asked him if he still talked to that girl, and he said no. We weren't anything official, but I wasn't talking to anyone else, and my boyfriend would text me every day, and we would hang out almost every day. Throughout our year together, I have asked him about the girl who came before me. He would always tell me that he stopped talking to her because he had a big crush on me. He liked me so much, and he thought I was amazing. Now, a year and a half into the relationship, we were hanging out with a friend who is also friends with the girl my boyfriend had an interest in before me. He casually says, "Oh, remember that time you hung out with this girl after hooking up with me? Current girlfriend?" I didn't say anything right away, but after our friend left, I asked my boyfriend if that was true. He said no, but I didn't trust him, so I asked him to show me a chat. That chat proved that he was still talking to this girl while he was talking to me. I hate when people lie to me. My boyfriend knows that. He has lied to me about small things, but I always end up finding out that he lies. Not because he owns up to it, but because I figure it out on my own. I've told him 1,000,000 times that lying just makes the situation worse. He says he'll change, but he keeps lying about stupid things. What angers me the most is that he lied to me for a full year, telling me that he didn't hang out with this girl and creating this fantasy that he liked me so much, when none of it was true, and he kept hanging out with the other girl. And I asked him multiple times, and he still decided to keep lying to me. When we have discussed that he needs to be honest with me, he says the same things, that he will change and he will be honest. This was a perfect opportunity to tell the truth, and he still decided to lie. Am I overreacting? I feel like I should end the relationship. I hate when people lie to me, and I feel like I cannot trust him. What should I do? Any advice? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, so you pretty much didn't trust him from the beginning. I'd just break up then. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading. So, a lot has happened in the past month. After that incident with the chat, I decided to take a break from my boyfriend. I needed some space to think things through. During this time, I stayed with my friend, who has always been supportive. She helped me see things from different perspectives, but it was still hard to shake off the feeling of betrayal. I kept replaying everything in my head, wondering if I was overreacting or if my feelings were valid. A couple of weeks into the break, my boyfriend reached out to me. He apologized again and said he wanted to meet up to talk things through. I agreed, hoping that maybe we could find some common ground. When we met, he seemed genuinely remorseful. He admitted that he had a problem with lying and that he was willing to go to therapy to work on it. This was a big step for him, and it made me reconsider my decision to end things. We decided to give it another shot, but with some conditions. He would start therapy, and we would work on rebuilding trust. Things seemed to be going well for a while. He was more open with me, and I could see that he was making an effort to change. However, there was always this nagging feeling in the back of my mind that something was off. One night, about 3 weeks into our reconciliation, I noticed that he was acting strange. He was more distant and seemed preoccupied with his phone. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but my gut was telling me that something was wrong. I decided to confront him about it, and he assured me that everything was fine. But I couldn't shake off the feeling that he was hiding something. A few days later, I found out that he had been talking to the same girl again. This time, it wasn't just casual conversation. They had been meeting up behind my back. I was devastated. All the progress we had made felt like it was for nothing. I confronted him, and he admitted to it, saying that he was confused and didn't know what he wanted. This was the breaking point for me. I decided to end the relationship for good. It was clear that he wasn't going to change, and I couldn't keep putting myself through this emotional roller coaster. The fallout from this decision was tough. I had to move out of our shared apartment, and I find a new place to live. My friend helped me through this transition, but it was still a difficult and emotional time. During this period, I started reflecting on my own patterns and behaviors. I realized that I had a tendency to ignore red flags and give people too many chances. This was something I needed to work on for my own well-being. I started going to therapy myself, and it has been incredibly helpful in understanding my own issues and how to set healthier boundaries in future relationships. As I was settling into my new place, I found out that my ex had started dating the girl he had been talking to. This was a hard pill to swallow, but it also gave me closure. It made me realize that I had made the right decision to end things. I deserved someone who would be honest with me and respect me, and he clearly wasn't that person. Looking back, I can see that there were signs all along that he wasn't trustworthy. I ignored them because I wanted to believe that he could change. But people don't change unless they want to, and he clearly didn't. This experience has taught me a lot about myself and what I need in a relationship. One thing that stood out to me during this whole ordeal was a conversation I had with my friend. She reminded me of a time when I was in high school and dated a guy who was also a compulsive liar. I had completely forgotten about it, but it made me realize that I had a pattern of attracting and staying with people who weren't honest with me. This was a wake-up call, and it made me more determined to break this cycle. As I move forward, I'm focusing on myself and my own growth. I'm learning to trust my instincts and set boundaries. It's not easy, but I know it's necessary for my own happiness. I'm also taking the time to enjoy being single and rediscovering my own interests and passions. Thank you for reading. Aita for feeling resentful about my girlfriend's privileged life and avoiding her calls. While she's abroad, I really need some advice on how to handle my complicated feelings. My girlfriend, 21 years old, comes from a wealthy family and often goes on luxurious international vacations with them. The last 2 times they've traveled abroad, I stayed at their place to dog sit. Her family is incredible and does so much for me. Meanwhile, I, 22 years old, come from a poor background and never got to experience the luxuries she has growing up. I just graduated college in May and start my job in July. I worked tirelessly to land this well-paying corporate job without any family connections, paying my own way through college while working to cover rent and tuition. We are in a homosexual relationship and have been dating for 2.5 years. We have a healthy and secure relationship where we talk through issues openly. She loves me for who I am and never makes me feel belittled or left out for not coming from money. When she pays for things, she does it out of the kindness of her heart, understanding my financial situation. Her family is newly wealthy. Her dad grew up poor and made a name for himself as a medical doctor. They just hit bringing in $1 million this year and are continuing to expand. We don't have plans for marriage until our late 20s, and I don't think the solution is to just marry into her family, referencing other advice I've been given. They have never asked me to join their family vacations, but her parents have paid for things related to my college experience and are currently helping me furnish my first apartment. Her dad also gives me a lot of valuable financial advice, which I am very grateful for. Here's where it gets tricky. I can't help but feel envious of her life. She never has to worry about money and can do whatever she wants whenever she wants. She's amazing, not stuck up at all, and fully aware of her privilege. She often pays for us when we go out. Yet, I can't shake this jealousy about her ability to float through life effortlessly, while I have to grind and start my adult life working immediately after graduation. To make matters more complicated, she's planning to study abroad in Scotland this year. And all I want is the freedom to travel and not be tied down. But I just don't have that privilege. One thing that really bothers me is when she sends me lots of pictures of her doing things abroad. I feel guilty for feeling jealous, because at the same time, I am very happy she is happy and doing fun stuff. I just wish I had the same opportunities she does. How do I cope with these feelings of frustration and jealousy? I don't want to bring it up with her, as I don't see that being beneficial if she is not the problem. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, here's what you do. Locate your emotions in your body. All emotions are physical. We don't focus on the physical because we go into our heads, but they are physical. Now feel the emotion as a physical feeling and allow it to be there. Is it actually painful? Usually the answer is no. If yes, is it really physically painful? It almost never is. Now triple the physical sensation. Ask your body to give you triple the pain. Remember, it is not usually physically painful. Now, let it be there. Imagine if you were paid $1,000 an hour to feel this emotion. Would you take the money? How many hours a day would you sign up for? Emotional avoidance is the problem 99% of the time, not the actual emotions. Comment 2. Why are you posting this again? Your other post has over 150 comments telling you to essentially get over it. It's not your girlfriend's fault. She was born rich and you were born poor. The majority of people in life have to work hard. You being with a rich partner is already a strong benefit to your life. Again, get over it or find someone that you're not going to be silly about. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading. So, 3 months have passed since I last shared my feelings about my girlfriend's privileged lifestyle and my own struggles with the jealousy. A lot has happened since then, and I think it's time for an update. First off, my girlfriend did go to Scotland for her study abroad program. She was really excited about it, and I tried my best to be supportive. We had a long talk before she left, and I decided to be honest about my feelings. I told her that while I was happy for her, I was also struggling with some jealousy and frustration. She was really understanding and reassured me that our relationship was her top priority. She promised to stay in touch and make time for us despite the distance. The first month was tough. She was having the time of her life, and I was stuck in my new job, which was more demanding than I had anticipated. I was working long hours, and the stress was getting to me. I missed her a lot, and seeing her social media posts about all the amazing things she was doing in Scotland made me feel even worse. I started to withdraw a bit, not responding to her messages as quickly and avoiding video calls. I didn't want to bring her down with my negativity. But then, something unexpected happened. My girlfriend's dad called me one evening. He said he had noticed that I seemed a bit off lately and wanted to check in. I was hesitant at first, but he has always been kind and supportive, so I opened up to him. I told him about my feelings of jealousy and frustration, and how I was struggling to balance my new job with missing my girlfriend. He listened patiently and then shared something that changed my perspective. He told me about his own struggles growing up poor, and how he had to work incredibly hard to get to where he is today. He said that he understood my feelings and that it was okay to feel the way I did. He also reminded me that my hard work and determination were qualities that my girlfriend admired and loved about me. He encouraged me to focus on my own goals and assured me that things would get better with time. That conversation was a turning point for me. I realized that I needed to stop comparing my life to my girlfriend's and start focusing on my own journey. I decided to take a risk and talk to my boss about my workload. I explained that I was feeling overwhelmed and asked if there was any way to adjust my responsibilities. To my surprise, my boss was very understanding and agreed to redistribute some of my tasks. This gave me a bit more breathing room and allowed me to focus on my work without feeling so stressed. With the extra time, I decided to take up a new hobby. I started going to a local gym and joined a fitness class. It was a great way to relieve stress and meet new people. I also started saving a little bit of money each month with the goal of eventually taking a trip of my own. It felt good to have something to look forward to and work towards. Meanwhile, my girlfriend and I found a new rhythm in our long-distance relationship. We scheduled regular video calls and made an effort to share our daily lives with each other. She was really supportive of my new hobby and even sent me a care package with some workout gear and healthy snacks. I could tell that she was making an effort to stay connected, and it meant a lot to me. But then, about 2 months into her study abroad program, my girlfriend called me with some unexpected news. She had been offered an internship in Scotland that would extend her stay by another 6 months. She was thrilled about the opportunity, but she was also worried about how it would affect our relationship. She asked me what I thought, and if I would be okay with her staying longer. This was a huge decision, and I felt a mix of emotions. On one hand, I wanted to support her and encourage her to take advantage of this amazing opportunity. On the other hand, I was worried about the strain it would put on our relationship. I took some time to think it over and talked to a few close friends for advice. In the end, I decided to support her decision. I told her that I believed in her and that I wanted her to follow her dreams. We agreed to take things one day at a time and to keep communicating openly and honestly. It wasn't an easy decision, but I knew it was the right one for both of us. As for my own journey, I continued to focus on my job and my personal goals. I started to see some progress at work and even received positive feedback from my boss. My savings were slowly growing, and I began to plan a small trip for myself once I had enough money. It felt good to have something to work towards and to see my hard work paying off. Looking back, I can see how much I've grown over the past few months. I've learned to cope with my feelings of jealousy and frustration and to focus on my own journey. My relationship with my girlfriend has also grown stronger, despite the distance. We've learned to communicate better and to support each other in new ways. Thank you for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.